it is titled Less is More, and we're going to talk about this later on. Audiovisual translation as a specialized branch of translation can be addressed from several aspects. As a science that can be studied and taught, a craft that can be trained and mastered with practice, and art using language as an inspiring creative tool. But when it comes to the practical side, audiovisual translation is a profession just like any other. A profession that provides work and sustains livelihoods of audiovisual translators. And it is particularly this aspect that we're going to address today. The title, or perhaps the subtitle, of this roundtable is Less is More. This phrase hints at one of the characteristic features and standards of audiovisual translation, especially subtitling. This is reduction, condensing of the original text to comply with the spatial and temporal constraints of text presentation. So less is more. Subtitles have been considered as texts having the largest audiences in subtitling countries. With the advent of modern technology, social media, this ratio may change, but on the whole, subtitles will continue to attract great numbers of readers. So unfortunately, the motto can be reversed to show the painful truth of the current economic status of audiovisual translators. So more is less. In many countries across Europe, the more they work, the less they are paid. Okay, we could go on discussing different interpretations of this motto, but let's give a very warm welcome now to our distinguished guests here today. And the Liberac Academic Book Fair is hosting today 6 remarkable guests coming from 5 European countries. Ms. Amalie Voss from Denmark, Ms. Mirka Brezowska from Slovakia, Mr. Henrik Walter Johnsen from Norway, Mr. Ian Burley from France, and 2 guests from Slovenia, Ms. Polona Mertel and Ms. Barbara Miller. So please, let's give them a very warm All guests have working experience in audiovisual translation. They are also active, leading members of national and international audiovisual organizations. They are promoters of professionalism in audiovisual translation, both in the area of translation production and the social and economic regulation of the profession. I'm going to turn first to you, Amalie Voss. So you come from Denmark, and you are the co-founder and the president of the AVTE, that is the Audiovisual Translators Europe, and this is the European Federation gathering national associations of audiovisual translators. Can you tell us something more about your federation, the international federation?
Certainly. We found, actually, I think the Polish association found us in Denmark, and I think that's how it started. We always had very close cooperation with the Norwegian association, and it developed from there. And we, I think we made our federation, founded our federation properly in 2010. The thing is, we have the same problems everywhere, and we have the multinational companies, or transnational companies at least, offering the same poor conditions, or similarly poor conditions in all countries. So we thought it was very important to have like an umbrella organization, a federation for all the national associations. And in many countries in Europe, translators are not allowed to form unions, because there is a very silly EU regulation that says that if you're a freelance or a one-person company, I can't remember what it's called, you are a company. So whether it's you know, one person, or Sainsbury's, or Bayer, or whatever, you know, it's the same. You're treated equally. So if you form a union, it's what's that word that you're not allowed? What
Cartel.
company? Cartel. It's a cartel, and you can't do that. Which is all nonsense, of course. But it means that in most European countries there are associations instead of unions. In Denmark, we have a union. We're part of the Danish Union of Journalists. So that gives us an advantage. And anyway, the thing is to get together and find all the things we have in common, and work from that. Work towards contact with the EU system, because it's very important. All the things they cook up, all kinds of rules and regulations that are supposed to ease the what is called the free flow of labour throughout the EU, and the free flow of this, that, and the other. And it usually ends up curtailing our freedom in a sense, because, you know, that would be considered a cartel. So we have had, I think, some substantial advantages already from working together, from talking to people in the EU bureaucracy as a European federation instead of a national association. It makes a huge difference, and also with the transnational companies it makes a big difference. They are actually willing to listen and talk to us. Whether they're willing to change things, you know, we really have to push. And I think we have a better chance of telling people the importance of no. You know, that if a company offers you very poor conditions, they're not going to improve as you go along. If you're 21 or 25, or you're just out of university, you think that. They say, we'll increase fees as you get more experience. They never, ever do. It's a complete lie. So, you know, and all these things that we have to tell people, that your time is worth something, and your work is worth something, is something we can do a lot better with the European Federation, because our problems are so similar everywhere. Sorry, am I taking too long?
No, it's okay. How many national associations have you got?
15.
As many
Well,
as-
there's 2 in France, but 14 or 15 now, however we. And we're just talking to Turkey, so that should be another very important one.
Okay.
So, you know, we're expanding all the time.
Yeah. So you're the president of this
Yes.
federation, and the president, as you said, of the subtitle section of the Danish Union of
Journalists.
Journalists.
Yes, that's
And
right.
this is your national association.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And also an active translator.
Yes,
Um,
and have been for nearly 30 years. Oh,
yeah.
a long time.
Working for.
And I work for the second national broadcaster in Denmark. I do subtitled news and sports, of which I know more than when I started anyway. And then various, this is as a freelancer, and then other freelance work. I'm fortunate enough to work for one of the few companies that pay reasonable rates in Scandinavia. In many places where there's still a reasonable market, it's like a two-tier market with the good companies and the bad companies. Now a third tier is emerging, the even worse companies.
Yes, and you are also a co-founder and co-owner of Subtitles Cooperative Company.
This is a very tiny Danish offshoot of the Swedish company that I work for, that I mentioned, the ones that pay reasonable rates. It consists of 50-odd subtitles who used to work for the Swedish national television, who then outsourced the job. They got together. It was like a piece of pioneering work, really. They got together, formed a company, made a bid for the job and for the work, and actually got it. Mm-hmm. So reduced rates and so on, but still reasonable, and prevented the market from falling to bits. You know, the last good bits of the market from falling apart completely. So we formed a tiny offshoot of this company in Denmark. So they own 25% of us. Mm-hmm. We are 4 equal partners who own the rest, and we just try and make it work. And the thing is, there are lots of clients who won't pay the proper fee for the proper work, but there are clients who will. TV clients, broadcasting clients, but also private enterprise clients. There's lots more online that is now being subtitled, as we all know. Little clips, little films that people put online. They want the subtitles because very often people are reading, they're watching, but they don't want the sound. They want the sound off. Mm-hmm. So there is more. The subtitling market is expanding and expanding and expanding. And there is a lot of money in media. And we just have to get out of this mindset of thinking that none of this money belongs with us.
Right.
That's more or less it.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
Is there anything
yes.
else you'd like to cover?
And Mirka Brezowska. So you've been very active as a translator, adapter, script writer, script supervisor, dialogue writer for major Slovak, Czech and Central European film productions. And not only that, you wrote a study about audiovisual translation and give papers at conferences. But you are also the vice president of the AVTE Association and the vice chairperson of the board of the Slovak Collective Right Management Organization, member of the board of directors of the International Federation of Coalitions for Cultural Diversity. You have been involved actively in legislation processes concentrating copyright law and intellectual property, and worked for the Ministry of Culture of the Slovak Republic. So, what is now the status of Slovak audiovisual translators in terms of legislation and intellectual property?
Well, in Slovakia, we concentrate mostly on dubbing because Central Europe is also one of those parts of Europe where dubbing is prevalent. And I think another reason I would like to mention, apart from those that we heard for dubbing, is also censorship during communism. Maybe you didn't have that, but I remember some films that were translated, and while Russians were mentioned there, it was just omitted, and something else was translated, and dubbing is good for that. So we are a dubbing country in Slovakia. Audiovisual translators, just like translators in general, are considered authors because audiovisual work consists of several parts. That is music, literary part, directors, etc., etc. And we belong to the literary part, so we are considered authors. So we are protected by our collective management organization, which is called LITA. And we have the same problems like everybody else in other countries, that the value of our work is diminished. It's just diminished, and we get less money now than what we earned, let's say, 10 years ago. And I mean that nominally. So there are cases when I say, okay, just to give you an example, somebody earned 500 euros in crowns in that time in 1989, and he would nominally earn for the same amount of work today 250. With inflation and everything, so the inflation of our work is terrible. People work 7 days a week from morning until the very evening, just to make the ends meet, and there are very few people who actually can make living of doing audiovisual translation. That's another reason why we think that it is very important that we all join our forces, because just like with subtitles in dubbing, it is extremely important, if the film wants to be successful, if the producers want to have a successful film, it needs to be subtitled, it needs to be translated, and the translation has to be very good for languages like Slovak or Slovenian or smaller languages. It is extremely important. For documentaries, it is extremely important, because nobody in the world understands the language except for very few. We have 5 million people in Slovakia. It needs to be translated well, and producers need to understand that without good translation, there's no value to the film, because in documentaries usually it's only big talking heads on screen, and it needs to be understood what the talking head is saying when it is important. So it is extremely important that we join our forces like this, and extremely important that we try to accentuate the fact that without our contribution, the work as a whole may have difficulties in succeeding. So,
yeah. So this situation is still worsening.
I think we have
Is there any-
hit maybe the bottom.
Uh-huh.
Just like Amalie said, there are many opportunities today with internet. The field has broadened. So it is up to us and up to young people, up to students to fight for their position on the market. Because nobody else, if you say, okay, I'll do that for €1, why not? You go ahead. Or if you want to do something for free. Working for free is a good idea if you want to do something, if you want to do charity, to help, a good idea. But if somebody is making money on me working for nothing, it's not right. It's just not right, because a doctor is not asked to do that. We are. So it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, we're discussing here problems of fan subtitling and crowdsourcing.
I know.
Yeah.
And it is very important. I would like just to add one small thing to what Amalie said. When we founded AVT, we made contacts to companies, to European institutions. Once, a few years back, we went to Brussels to meet the representatives of European Commission. There was a big conference, and we said, hey, hi, we are AVTE, and this is a conference for translators that you are having here. There is no one from AVTE, from audiovisual translation. And the lady said, oh yes, you're right, audiovisual translation. Yes, somehow we forgot about you. So it is very important to remind those people that there is also this. It's not only documents, it's not only books. It's this huge sector of audiovisual translation.
It's amazing because, as I said, and as we know, subtitles are the most frequently read texts
Exactly.
in subtitling countries and probably elsewhere as well. Thank you, Mirka. Henrik Walter Jonsson, So you are the Vice President of the National Federation of Translators of FIT Europe.
Yes.
Can you tell something about this particular function?
I can do that. First, I would like to say a small anecdote about, or make a small comment about what she said, the Italian lady that was here previously. She said that fan subs are more precise than professional subtitles. And I take issue with that, because that is, she goes to the core of what subtitling is all about. She said something like 40% of the information gets lost, that is the art of subtitling. That's what we do. We put a big chunk of dialogue or text and we make it smaller without losing any information. So I've got an example for you. There's a scene from a movie, and all of this is being said within 5 seconds. Actually, I think I've got it here. I can read it to you. Absolutely the way it's supposed to be. Well, he's on the phone with 911, and 911 says, "Okay, Mr. Conroy, can you tell me your location?" And then Mr. Conroy replies, "I don't know. I don't know where. Please help me." All of this is said within 5 seconds. You've got one caption and you need to compress all of that information into two lines of text. That is the art of what we do. That's what makes you a subtitler. When you know how to take all the information out and put it and compress it into 2 lines of text. Yeah.
And you are also the project manager for the development of the Nordic model of subtitling, and this particular standard that you talked about is one of the points of this model.
Yes.
What other good points are there concerning this Nordic model of subtitling?
I was the project manager of the Norwegian model, simply because I am Norwegian and I have no authority in Norway, so we had to start somewhere and we started there. We got all the different parts of the industry together. We collected the broadcasters, we invited the subtitling agencies like BTI and SDI. Some of you know them, some of you will get to know them. These are the hand that feed that will give you work. The practitioners themselves, and also the Language Council, which is the governmental body concerning language. We got together and we agreed to define what is the Scandinavian, the Norwegian tradition of subtitling. And one of the parts that we found to be most important is, in fact, what I just said, that we respect reading speed and we condense the information being conveyed into a very precise and yet very Norwegian text underneath. So I would say that's the best point, especially meeting companies like Netflix, HBO, Amazon, and even international broadcasters like BBC and the National Geographic Channel. They come to Norway, they want to show their shows on our channels, and they think that they can use the American way of subtitling, which is basically including everything. And Norwegians are not used to that. We want to read comfortably what's being said, and part of the point also, when you watch a movie, you don't go there because you want to sit and read a lot of text. You go there because you want to see the movie, obviously. So if the reading speed is too high, you will be sitting reading. the entire time. That's not what you want as a viewer. You want to watch as well. So we give the viewers time to watch the movie or the show.
To read and to watch, both is very important, but if you just get the text, you focus on the text and not have the opportunity sometimes to read it with fat subtitles or subtitles of low quality. Henrik, you are also the Vice President of the Norwegian Association for Audiovisual Translators.
Yeah.
So, what are the main objectives of your own association?
We are in a special position right now because we've got our economy is strong, which allows us to do more work than we have done in previous years. For instance, this international work. So what we've done is we've hired me basically in a 20% position. So I now am free to work one day every week on international matters. Now I'm a special advisor to ABTE. I am also the vice, not president, but the vice chairman of FIT Europe, which is the European Federation of Translators, all kinds of translators. And part of what we do is to come, for instance, to Slovenia and spread the good word about what we're doing.
And you are continuing to Zagreb, where you're going to have a meeting
Yeah.
of the ABT.
Every year, all of the associations come together somewhere in Europe. This year it's in Zagreb because we accepted the Croatian association 2 years ago in Nitra in Slovakia. And so this year they're hosting the event. We're all coming together from 14 different countries, and every year we sit down and we tell each other what we've been doing over the last year, which is a very, very good exchange of information, because maybe the Swedes have come up with a great idea that they can use in Italy. Maybe the Slovenians have done something ingenious that would really work very well in the UK. Well, this is where we tell each other about these things.
Interesting. Yeah. Thank you, Henrik. There's not enough time, so we have to go on to our next guest. Ian Burley from France. You
Originally from the UK.
I just wanted to say you don't sound very French.
But I can sound very French.
And you are the president of the French Association of Audiovisual Translators and Adapters. So, what are the main objectives of your association?
Well, our association has just over 300 members now. We've been around for 12 years. We estimate that 315 members we have represent around 60% of audiovisual translators working in France. Our goals are basically to be able to carry on making a living from what we do. And fortunately, I mean, France is in a very, very, very privileged situation compared to most European countries, because until now, until these last few years, there has not been any really rapid decline in rates. It is happening now with Netflix and all these companies driving rates down. But the rule in France until 4 or 5 years ago was that you worked directly for the company that broadcast what you were showing. There was no middleman. Because of the huge volume that's coming in now, middlemen are stepping in and skimming off, in some cases, up to 70% of what the companies think they are paying for their translation. We have the case of Arte, the Franco-German cultural channel, which believed it was paying translators 10 euros a minute, when in fact the translator was getting 3 euros a minute, and the lab or the agency was skimming off all the rest. So this is what we're fighting against. It's a very difficult struggle because obviously there are more and more young people arriving on the market, and they think, I need to work, so I'll accept the first thing that comes along. But as we keep telling them, don't accept a low rate because you'll stay at a low rate for your whole life. It's only going to get worse. So we're doing a lot of work. We go into universities to talk to students in translation diploma classes. A new project also for us is to go to film festivals and tell the general public what subtitling actually entails. Because so many people think they can just, I can do that better than they can. They've left so much out, that sort of thing. So that's another project we have for the next few years, is to do that as well. Go out and get the word out, that, like Henrik said, spread the good word, and tell people, just make people more aware of what subtitling is, what AV translation is, what dubbing is, what audio description is, and how we need to make a living from it, and how we should be paid a decent rate for doing that. Because so many people have 5-6 years of university studies behind them and end up getting paid the rate of a cleaner.
You mentioned working for the film festivals. Do you see that the quality of subtitles there varies from country to country?
Well, I can talk about an example I saw at the Berlin Festival this year. We were contacted in France to translate some Swiss TV movies for the Berlin Festival. And the rate that they were offering, I mean, this is Switzerland where they got money. And I've worked for the Swiss before, and they paid 2.5 euros per subtitle. Okay. This company was offering 10 euros per minute for subtitling. So it's a whole different, these were 2 60-minute movies, and there would have been about, I reckon, having seen them, 1,000 subtitles in each movie. So between 2,500 and 1,000 euros for the same job. It just doesn't work. So basically everybody in France refused to do the work, and I saw the movies subtitled in Berlin in English. And to be quite honest, for an English release they would have had to be redone completely, because they were done by non-English language natives in Switzerland. And it was a total disaster, so yeah, we need to preserve that.
I'm afraid these rates would be still acceptable in Slovenia.
This is my dream is that the whole of Europe gradually rises up to French rates rather than France coming down to the rates in places like Poland or Portugal. But it's also the advantage was that France was the only country in Europe that billed subtitling per subtitle. And that is still the case for the film industry. You do not bill per minute of film. Because I can give you an example. 2 years ago I worked on an Italian movie that had 200 subtitles in it. It was a 90-minute movie, 200 subtitles. I had been paid 20 euros a minute for that. That would have been great. 2 weeks later I was offered a French movie, same running time of 90 minutes, 1,900 subtitles.
Yeah.
So, the rate per minute does not reflect the work that has to be done. But unfortunately, it's prevalent throughout Europe. But yeah, I mean, France is in a very, very privileged position. We are aware of it, and we'd really like everybody to come up to our level. And it would be better for everybody. It would revalue, re-valorize the audiovisual translation as an art, as a business.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Polona, you are the current president of Slovenia's Association of Film and Television Translators. What are the main problems that our translators, that we as subtitlers face now in Slovenia?
I would say we will go first together with it's the general trend, lowering the rates. Every shorter times for translating, unreasonable demands for everything, and they still expect top quality, which sometimes you just cannot understand how someone can expect a top quality for 1.1 euro per minute. And that's why we said, I don't know, 10 euros per minute would be here accepted. Both hands, that's how the situation is in Slovenia. there, of course, I'm talking these are the base rates and everything, but the trend is lowering the rates, shortening the time allocated for the translation, and this is, I would say, this is part of also our fault, because we just don't know how to say no. And that's why it is important, because I know they're trying to recruit students with the promise of high rates in the future, which it just won't happen. Because there are students behind you, they're going to do the same mistake, hoping that in 5 or 6 years they're going to get whatever, better rates, but no, you're going to be replaced. And that's why it's important that you're aware of this, that you try to keep your standard and to know that your work is important, that you are creating something that a lot of people will see, will read, and will judge. And that's why you need enough time, and another, it's help with your colleagues, with some professionals to be able to do this. And our association would certainly like to be more present even on the student level. So we are inviting you, if anyone is interested in audiovisual translation, to join the association. It doesn't mean that you need to translate, I don't know, 20 movies, because we know it's not possible. But if you want to learn something, to get help from maybe more experienced colleagues, that would be something it would be a win-win situation for both.
But our association has been trying to improve the social status of Slovene audiovisual translators.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So
At the institutional level.
on the institutional level, we are trying to, unfortunately now we know we're going to have general elections. We have to try to wait for the new Minister of Culture to present our problem again. It's happening. It's a circular thing. We need to present our situation every 4 years or every 2 years or whatever it is. But I would like to stress something very important, which maybe people don't, when you sign a contract, especially with some American company, they try to get you probably don't read it, because the contract is 8 pages long and it's a very small print, so it's annoying to read and it's a boring reading, to be sure. But they want you to give up your moral rights as well. That means that you don't have any control of your translation anymore. They can do whatever they want to do with it, and you won't, if we ever get to that, some secondary rights, any remuneration back for the work you've done and you're entitled to. And to, I don't know, I don't think that anyone wants to translate something, sign his name or her name underneath, and then someone else who doesn't have a clue about your work is going to interfere, make big changes, and that will affect your name, your reputation.
Yes. Also, sorry, may I interject? It is illegal to ask somebody to give up their moral rights.
Yeah, in most European countries,
Apart from the UK and Ireland, which thankfully we're not in. So never ever sign one of those contracts. They are illegal. So in that sense, they don't bind you, but they can give you a lot of problems. So never ever sign that. Join your national association. Never sign those contracts, and always get your name, your credit on your work. It is your legal entitlement. Also in most European countries as well. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. Barbara Miller, is the founder and the first president of Slovenia's Association of Audiovisual Translators, and now you are the head of the Translators Department, audiovisual and generally speaking translators for the national broadcaster. So we have already touched upon the quality of subtitles, translations. What's the main objective of your department?
First of all, I must say I'm not the only founder. I was just one of
Well, it was a generative spirit.
I was just one of the founders, so I had a great team with me, great colleagues who are all aware of the importance of having a national association. So it was a big project, but it's getting from year to year with more work done, and we managed to join APE, and so I expect that greater steps will follow in the years. Well, about the quality, Televizija Slovenija, Slovenia National Broadcaster, is public television, so it is bound to quality. It has to produce the translations of highest quality because it's bound by law to do that. So, and a great part of its program is translated, foreign films, documentaries, news, sports news, interviews, and well, as a member of EBU, European Broadcasting Union, the Slovenian National Television not only promotes Slovenian culture, but it also promotes broader European culture. So we are having many foreign languages to translate. For example, the films, the movies, not only English, but French, German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Catalan, Croatian, Serbian, Czech, Slovak, Polish, Russian, Danish, Norwegian, Finnish, Romanian, for all those languages. And we put great effort into translating these films from original languages, because there is a broad practice, especially in agencies, that they produce English subtitles, and then it's the translation of translation, and they're translating that from English translation, which works sometimes, but not always, because in English you don't see gender, you don't see proper numbers. Slovenian language is one of 2 European languages with dual. It's a big difference in Slovenia, saying, for example, we were walking through the park. So if it's we, it's just 2 of you, or it's a company. I mean, a group of 5 or 10 people. It can be a very intimate scene or just a general scene, and you don't see from English if it's official, it's more formal address, or it's informal. So that's why we have a great network of translators who work for us for 20 years, 25, 30 years, and even I was translating for national television for 20 years, and I'm head of the translating department now for a year and a half. So Mrs. Dušanka Zabukovec was the lady in red. She gave me work 20 years ago. Thank you. She was the first one to give me a chance. So, what is also important, and as national television, we are kind of setting standards for AV translation in Slovenia. And so what we do inflicts the others. And we are fighting against, like, Americans making us do the translations on their way. We are a pillar of resistance. And we do the translation like we do it in Slovenia for many decades now. And we also pay special attention to Slovenian language, not only grammar, but also the stylistics, the use of proper words, the proper wording, and also all other aspects of subtitling that have already been mentioned. The proper segmentation of the text, the timings, the cueing, and of course the reading speed. So, unfortunately, our general audience is not, average audience is not very young, and so people, and especially lately, more and more people don't see well, and they read slowly. So instead of speeding up the subtitles, we should be reducing the reading speed, because all the elderly people can't follow too fast subtitles. And what I need to mention too is that our translator also provide English subtitles. Our best colleagues for Slovenian films that are produced within the national television for international festivals, and officially work for Department for Translation and Proofreading within the national television. So briefly, that's
Thank you, Barbara. I'm afraid we've run out of time, but what would be the message to young translators, subtitlers?
There's one thing I'd like to say.
Yes.
Companies will say to you, oh, we can't afford it, we don't have any money. Subtitling or any form of audiovisual translation represents just a fraction, a really small fraction of a film budget.
Yes.
If you have a Hollywood movie, say, with a song in it, by, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen or some rap artist, they will have paid something, God knows how much money for that, just to be in, I don't know, 30 seconds of the film, but they will complain about a decent rate for the subtitler. So just remember that whatever you're asking them, it's not going to be too much.
No, that is very, very true. That's a very important part of it, is never to believe that there is no money for this.
Yeah.
Very often if you get...
Especially with Netflix claiming that they are investing $8 billion in their originals production this year.
Yes, exactly. Whether it's television or films, the translation, the subtitling in particular, is a minute, it's a figment of the actual budget, and even with dubbing, it is not that large an amount. If they say we don't have any money left, it's because they've forgotten to factor in the subtitling. In which case, you don't really want to work for them anyway, because they'll be clowns. So it's what I said before. Join your national association. It's not idyllic. It's all voluntary work. You join. You pay the fee. And still, what will happen is what you do. It will happen when you do it, because it's all voluntary work. It's how we work all over the place. It's frequently very frustrating, but it's extremely important. And it's where your network is. And it will also get you jobs. So join your national association. And if you can't be active, back up the people who are, unless they're completely going off the rails, in which case you have to take over and do it yourself. So this is the basis of voluntary work, but you can achieve so much. So say no, do not swallow the neoliberalist cod swallow. Capitalism is a wonderful thing, neoliberalism, not so much. There is enough money, join your association, be active if you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So I would like to thank.
You said that.
So thank you for your valuable advice to young translators.
Thank you for inviting
And
us.
I really thank you for your contributions to heightening the awareness of this wonderful profession. Really, thank you.